Well, good afternoon, everybody. And on behalf of Michelle and myself, welcome to the White House. 23 years ago, President George H.W. Bush began a tradition. He knew that across the country, every day, Americans were finding ways to serve each other and give back to their communities, often with very few resources and very little recognition. And President Bush knew that their good works were valuable to the people they helped, but beyond that, he knew that their spirit of service was vital to our national character. So he created an award, the Daily Point of Light Award, to recognize Americans who serve their neighbors and communities in innovative ways that inspire us all. And for the rest of his presidency, nearly every single day, President Bush gave someone a Daily Point of Light Award. And after he left the White House, he kept going and going and going. In between skydiving and other activities, he kept going, which should come as no surprise since we're talking about somebody who has served his country in such extraordinary ways. And, you know, when you do a parachute jump at the age of 85, not just a parachute jump, but another parachute jump, I believe is 7th. This is somebody who's not going to slow down anytime soon. So today we are extraordinarily honored to be joined by the family that helped build the Points of Light Foundation into the world's largest organization dedicated to volunteer service. President Bush, Mrs. Bush, Neil Bush, we want to welcome you, and we also want to recognize Michelle Nunn, the CEO of Points of Light. It's worth an applause here. Now, this is not the first time President Bush and I have come together for an event like this. 4 years ago, I went down to Texas A&M, where President Bush has his library, to help celebrate the 20th anniversary of Points of Light. And I appreciated the warm welcome, by which I mean the extremely loud howdy that I received. I was deeply impressed by how invested the students there are in community service. But most of all, I was moved by how much they love President Bush. And now we've come together to mark another milestone. As of this minute, 4,999 Points of Light Awards have been presented to individuals and organizations across this country. And so now I have the honor of joining President Bush in presenting number 5,000. Number 5,000. About 10 years ago, Floyd Hammer and Kathy Hamilton were getting ready to retire. They had been farming for years. They had earned a break. They planned to sail around the world. And then their friend told them about a special place that they should visit along the way. In a village in Tanzania, a volunteer mission was helping to renovate an HIV/AIDS clinic. And Floyd and Kathy thought it sounded like a worthwhile detour. When they arrived in Tanzania, the country was in the third year of a brutal drought. People were starving and dying. Many of them were children. And having seen this, Kathy and Floyd simply had to do something about it. And so their vision of a leisurely retirement was replaced by a new mission, fighting global hunger. Today, the nonprofit they created, Outreach, has distributed free meals to hungry children here in the United States and in more than 15 countries worldwide. To date, more than 233 million meals. They've gotten to see many of the kids that they met in Tanzania grow up healthy and strong. And this work, they say, is the most rewarding thing that they've ever done. And I have to say, having just been to Tanzania with Michelle, we can attest to how important this kind of work is, how it changes lives. It's also fitting that later this week, on July 18th, people around the world will celebrate the legacy of the magnificent public servant Nelson Mandela by performing acts of public and community service. And as people look for examples, Outreach provides an extraordinary demonstration of how service can lift people's lives. And so, if the purpose of this award is to celebrate Americans who work to make our country and a world a better place, not for their own advantage or for any ulterior motives, but just to serve, pure and simple, I can't think of anyone more deserving than Kathy Hamilton and Floyd Hammer. Now, before we actually present this award, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to honor the man who made this all possible. He hates this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Much has been said about President Bush's own extraordinary life of service, but I'm not sure everybody fully appreciates how much he's done to strengthen our country's tradition of service. In addition to this award, he created the first White House office dedicated to promoting volunteerism, and he championed and signed the National and Community Service Act. By Washington standards, it was a modest law. It involved little money. President Bush signed it with little fanfare. But looking back, we see that it sparked a national movement. By laying the groundwork for the Corporation for National and Community Service, and AmeriCorps, and Senior Corps, it gave tens of millions of Americans meaningful opportunities to serve. And today, thanks to those programs and others like them, and thanks to the passion of leaders like President Bush and citizens who found the same passion over the years, volunteerism has gone from something some people do some of the time to something lots of people do as a regular part of their lives. Since 1989, the number of Americans who volunteer has grown by more than 25 million. Service is up across age groups and across regions. It's now a graduation requirement in many high schools and colleges. It's embedded in the culture of businesses, large and small. And speaking for my family, volunteering has brought joy and meaning to Michelle and me and our daughters over the years, and I know that's the case for many of your families too. This national tradition may seem perfectly ordinary to many Americans, especially those who've grown up during this period, but in fact it reflects tremendous progress. And today we can say that our country is a better and a stronger force for good in the world because, more and more, we are a people that serve. And for that, we have to thank President Bush and his better half, Barbara, who is just as committed as her husband to service and has dedicated her life to it as well. The presidents who followed President Bush have had the good sense to continue this work, and not just because one of them calls him Dad. Even after leaving office, President Clinton and both President Bushes have come together to help people affected by natural disasters here at home and around the world. A reminder that service is not a Democratic or a Republican value, but it's a core part of being an American. And at the White House today, we're proud to carry forward that legacy. I created the Office of Social Innovation and Civic Participation to find new ways to use innovation to strengthen service. We expanded the Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, originally created by President George W. Bush, which works closely with religious and community organizations across the country to help Americans in need. And today I want to announce a new task force with representatives from cabinet agencies and other departments across the government to take a fresh look at how we can better support national service. In particular on some of our most important national priorities, improving schools, recovering from disasters, mentoring our kids. And this task force will be led by my team here at the White House, along with Wendy Spencer, who's here, the CEO of the Corporation of National and Community Service, who previously led the Volunteer Commission in Florida for Governor Jeb Bush. So we've got a whole family thing working. In times of tight budgets, and some very tough problems, we know that the greatest resource we have is the limitless energy and ingenuity of our citizens. And when we harness that energy and create more opportunities for Americans to serve, we pay tribute to the extraordinary example set by President Bush. And just to close on a personal note, Mr. President, I'm one of millions of people who've been inspired by your passion and your commitment. You have helped so many Americans discover that they too have something to contribute, that they too have the power to make a difference. You've described for us those 1,000 points of light all the people and organizations spread out all across the country who are like stars brightening the lives of those around them. But given the humility that's defined your life, I suspect it's harder for you to see something that's clear to everybody else around you, and that's how bright a light you shine, how your vision and example have illuminated the path for so many others, how your love of service has kindled a similar love in the hearts of millions here at home and around the world, and frankly, just the fact that you're such a gentleman and such a good and kind person, I think helps to reinforce that spirit of service. So on behalf of all of us, let me just say that we are surely a kinder and gentler nation because of you, and we can't thank you enough. So. So it is now my great pleasure to join President Bush and all of you in presenting this extraordinary award to an extraordinary couple who've done so much for so many people. We are very grateful to them. Floyd and Kathy, will you please step up and receive your award?
Thank you for this incredible award. We are humbled and honored to be chosen as the 5,000th Daily Point of Light. Not in our wildest dreams did we ever plan to be here or even imagined receiving this award. In fact, after being in business for 34 years, Floyd was dreaming of relaxing, even sailing around the world. But in 2003, he was asked to build an AIDS hospice at an old leprosy hospital in Nkungi Village, Tanzania. And that changed everything. When we got there, we saw children dying of starvation. There was no food and no money. 3 little boys who were scavenging for food ate something which was poisonous, and they died. We left for home overwhelmed by the need and by our need to do something about it. We knew we had to send food to help the people of Nkungi Village. We packed our first 2,000 meals with volunteers in our little town of Union, Iowa. And we discovered that people love to help and to give and to pack meals. We started an organization called Outreach. Each day, we took another step toward a bigger operation. One day, we had no intention of building, but which we were compelled to expand. We had to help, and others were eager to help us. Each Labor Day, volunteers all over Iowa help pack 4 million meals. And in the United States and Canada, tens of thousands of volunteers of all ages and nationalities have so far helped us to pack a total of 232 million meals so far. As we've seen time and time again, when people give of themselves, when they share the burden and they share the task of solving it, lights shine. Love grows all over the world and here at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now I think we're going to have Neil come up and go on Dad first. Do we have the mic? Here we go.
My remarks are simply to say something nice about Neil, my son. No, it's not hard to do. And he's been very active in this whole concept of volunteering, helping others. And so my privilege then to introduce Neil. And first, of course, thank President Ms. Obama for this wonderful hospitality. It's like coming home for Barbara and me, with the rest of you just coming to this magnificent house and be greeted by this superb hospitality knows no bounds. So thank you all very much. Now, Neil.
As Dad is being moved to a seat, he may not be parachuting anymore, but he's taken up a new hobby, and that is he's trying to be a style setter. I don't know if you noticed the socks here. I'm a GQ man, we're calling him, instead of 41. But Dad, you have said that if one wants to pursue a life of meaning and adventure, the way to do so is to find dignity, the dignity and goodness in every person, to help others in need, and to become part of something bigger than ourselves. You and Mom have lived an incredibly meaningful and adventurous lives. Thank you for inspiring so many to become points of light. That's an applause line. On behalf of the entire Bush family, a special thanks to you, Mr. President, and Michelle, for inviting us to this most special place and for your outstanding work to promote the service movement as a national priority. You understand, and you spoke of, the fact that service is one of the things that truly brings our nation together. It transcends politics and addresses problems that government alone cannot solve. We are so blessed in America to have two occupants that are true points of light in your own ways, and we thank you for your leadership in this area. Today we are celebrating the 5,000 daily points of light who represent the 65 million Americans who engage themselves in the lives of others every year. These points of light are what my dad calls the soul of America. Years ago, Dad asked us to imagine what would happen if all the Points of Light Award winners decided to leave their hometowns and to move together into one place in America. Imagine if Estella Pyfrom, who taught 50 years and then used her retirement funds to start Estella's Brilliant Bus, taught all the children in the town computer skills. And the pro football player, Israel Idonijeh's foundation, got them all reading books. And Kathy and Floyd helped feed and nurture the young people. And pastors Gloria and Ray Hammond mobilized the forces of good to intervene with troubled youth. And Teach for America arrived. And corporations, faith, youth, and senior groups organized volunteers to work with charities, to tutor, to clean, to feed, to mentor, to serve as points of light. Regardless of its problems, a community like this, one where every person, every group, every institution gave even a small part of their time in service to others, would be truly, utterly transformed. That is our mission, to turn every place in America into a community of light, to deepen the culture of service that drives change. That is the power of the Daily Point of Light program. Dad, before you left the White House, you spoke to all of the award winners, and you said, if I could leave but one legacy to this country, he brought up the L word, which he never does in private, but anyway, it would not be in treaties signed or wars won. It would be a return to the moral compass that must guide America through the next century. I'm talking about a respect for the goodness that makes this country great. A rekindling of that light lit from within to reveal America as it truly is, a country of millions of points of light. So thanks to all of you in this room. I could call you out by name, but Mom admonished me at church yesterday, and Dad just told me keep it short, so I won't. But thanks to all of you in this room who are points of light, and everyone across the country, those that we've recognized with the Daily Point of Light Award, and the millions more who've not found recognition, but who are solving the biggest challenges facing our nation. To all of them, we say thank you. You're cutting into my time. Mom's looking at me. Stop the applause. Now it is my pleasure as chair of the Points of Light, and I'm truly honored to serve with such an outstanding board, to introduce the CEO of Points of Light, a true leader of the National Service Movement, Michelle Nunn.
Thank you, Neil, for your boundless optimism and your incredibly gracious spirit and leadership. I think we share a number of things in common. One of them is that we have no-nonsense mothers, and my mother also, her only guidance was keep it short as well. So thank you, President and Mrs. Bush, for your lives of service. You bring us here together today. We are so proud to carry on your legacy and proud to continue to give out this award that you created to showcase the power of people to create change. The Daily Points of Light gathered here today, I think, are a beautiful tribute to your lives and your work. And thank you to President and Mrs. Obama for sustaining and dramatically growing national and community service. You've carried on a tradition of presidential leadership, calling Americans to put our compassion, our ingenuity, our perseverance to work, to lift up our neighbors, to build our communities, and to serve our nation. Over the past 3 decades, our presidents have shown us how we can work together through service. They have literally rolled up their sleeves, and they've called the nation to volunteer. From building houses with Habitat for Humanity, to rebuilding after disasters, to joining hands to support our veterans. And I believe it is in these humble acts of serving others that our presidents, the most powerful individuals on earth, have demonstrated America's true strength. They've made it clear that when there are people in need, Americans come together across all that divides us to help. And when there's a job to do, to clean up the Mississippi River or rebuild after Superstorm Sandy, we don't ask about political party or faith or income. When it comes to ensuring that people get food and shelter and a helping hand, we get together and we get busy. The Daily Points of Light Award calls the nation back to an essential understanding of who we are as Americans. It was President Bush's genius to put a daily spotlight on these individuals and actions that embody the very best of our nation. The award is an antidote to the dispiriting cynicism that too often pervades our news and our discourse. It reminds us that people care and that hope is the story, the true story of America. For 24 years, 5,000 points of light have shown us that we can create a better future together. So I want to introduce you to 2 daily points of light who represent the next generation of possibilities. Yash Gupta. Can you stand? Yash. A few years ago, Yash broke his glasses, and while he was waiting for a new pair, he realized how hard it was to learn anything without being able to see. And he discovered how many kids cannot afford glasses at all. So he started a project called Sight Learning, which has collected and distributed more than $350,000 worth of used eyeglasses to students in 6 countries around the world. Thank you, Yash. And Darius Quarles, can you stand? Darius Darius, like so many points of light, has transformed personal tragedy into a platform for serving others. Darius was 4 years old when his father was murdered. He spent 11 years in foster care without encouragement and advocates. And then in high school, a biology teacher told Darius that he had great potential, that he believed in him. So one caring adult who believed sparked Darius to pursue scholarships and grants to attend Morehouse College. But not satisfied with his own personal success, Darius wrote a book and founded $1 Million Scholar. And in just 1 year, he's helped thousands of students get the scholarships that they need. So Darius, congratulations. I'd like to invite all of the Points of Light Award winners that are here with us today to stand so that we can recognize you and celebrate your contributions. Thank you all. You and so many others across the nation are examples of America's greatness. You show us that we can create impact at a scale and at a speed that was formerly unimaginable. The future of citizen service is brighter than it's ever been. Individuals have more power to create change than they ever have. And each new Points of Light will make that future brighter still. So it's for that reason that I'm thrilled to announce today that Disney is making a significant investment to help ensure that we were able to lift up the next 1,000 Points of Light. So please join me in celebrating their investment. So, President and Mrs. Bush, we can hardly imagine the transforming changes these next Points of Light will bring. But I know that they will illuminate our path, that they will carry forward your spirit, and they will reflect on your legacy of service. And they will show and live out your example and your words, President Bush. They will show us not only what is best in our heritage, but what all of us are called to become. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for your outstanding work. To all the Points of Light Award recipients, we're proud of you. Congratulations, and keep up the great work. You inspire us and make us want to do that much more, especially when you see young people who are already making such a difference and such an impact. It gives you enormous confidence that America, for all its challenges, will always meet them, because we've got this incredible character. And with that, what I want to do is once again thank President and Mrs. Bush for their outstanding leadership. We are so grateful to both of you. I want to thank Neil for his leadership, and I want to make sure that everybody enjoys a reception, and I suspect the food may be pretty good. So, so thank you very much for all of you for being here. All right? Thank you.